Have you ever had that feeling where your brain just jumps to a conclusion? Almost like it has a mind of its own, way before you've had a chance to really think things through? Well, guess what? You're not wrong. Your mind is constantly taking these little hidden shortcuts to make sense of the world. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain, see how those shortcuts work, and maybe, just maybe, learn how to outsmart our own brains. Let's dive in. All right, to get things started, I want to try a quick mental challenge with you. Seriously, there's no trick here. The only rule is to go with your gut instinct. This is all about seeing how your intuition works in real time. Ready?
Okay, so what do you think? Don't dig for a dictionary, don't overthink it, just go with what feels right. Is it more common for words to start with K, or for K to be the third letter? Go ahead and lock in your answer.
So, did you say words that start with K? If you did, you're in very good company. That's what most people say. But the truth is, it's not even close. Words with K in that third spot are way, way more common. So what on earth just happened inside your head?
Well, the reason is actually pretty simple. When I ask you for words that start with K, your brain just serves them right up. King, kitchen, key, no, boom, boom, boom. But when I ask for words with K as the third letter, it's a little tougher, right? You have to work for it. Words like ask, make, or likely just don't pop into your head as easily. Your brain made a critical mistake. It confused how easy something is to remember with how common it is. And that little glitch, that's the key to everything we're talking about today. That little K-word puzzle perfectly sets the stage for a really groundbreaking idea from two psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. They figured out that our brain isn't just one single rational machine. No, it's much more like we have two different minds constantly competing with each other, each with its own style. Now, this quote looks a little dense, but what it's saying completely changed how we think about, well, thinking. For a long, long time, we thought of people as being these perfectly rational creatures. But Kahneman and Tversky showed that when we're facing uncertainty, we don't do complex math in our heads. Instead, we fall back on simple rules of thumb, or what they called heuristics, mental shortcuts.
So here's how they broke it down. They call them System 1 and System 2. Think of System 1 as your brain's autopilot. It's fast, it's automatic, it's your intuition. It's the system that lets you know 2 plus 2 is 4 without thinking, or lets you drive a familiar route home. System 2, on the other hand, that's the pilot. It's slow, it's deliberate, and man, it takes real effort. That's the system you fire up when you have to solve a tough math problem or parallel park. The thing is, your autopilot, System 1, is always on, and it absolutely loves to use those mental shortcuts.
And that's the bottom line right there. Your fast-thinking brain, your System 1, is constantly being guided, and sometimes misguided, by these mental shortcuts. Your slow-thinking brain, System 2, is the part of you that can step in and say, hey, wait a minute. It can examine those shortcuts and check their work. But the catch is, you have to consciously decide to engage the pilot. It doesn't happen on its own. So let's circle back to that K-word puzzle we started with. It's the perfect example of one of the most powerful and common shortcuts our brain uses. It's called the availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is really straightforward. If you can think of examples of something easily, your brain just assumes it must be more common or more important than things that are harder to recall. It's a simple equation in your head. Easy to remember equals statistically probable. And as we just saw with the letter K, that can be a huge flaw in our logic. And once you know what to look for, you see this heuristic playing out everywhere. We tend to worry way more about things like shark attacks because we can easily picture scenes from movies or dramatic news reports, even though they're incredibly rare. There was even a study where students who are asked to list 10 flaws in a course actually rated it higher than students asked to list only 2. Why? Because coming up with 10 flaws was so hard that their brain concluded, hey, this course must actually be pretty good. It even shapes how we see health risks, not based on stats, but on whether we happen to know someone who got sick.
Okay, so this shortcut doesn't just mess with our sense of risk. It also makes us see patterns where there's nothing but random noise. And this is especially true when the stakes are high, like in sports or on the stock market.
This leads to two classic mistakes that seem like opposites, but they actually come from the exact same error in thinking. On one side, you have the hot hand fallacy. That's the belief that a basketball player who just made a few shots is on fire and is now more likely to make the next one. On the other side, you have the gambler's fallacy. That's when you're at the roulette wheel, you see red come up 5 times in a row, and you feel it in your bones that it has to be black next.
But here's the cold, hard truth. They're both illusions. Each basketball shot is an independent event. The roulette wheel has no memory. The ball doesn't know it just landed on red 5 times. But our brains are absolute pattern-seeking missiles, and they will desperately try to create a story, a narrative, out of what is just pure, random chance. And that leads us to make some really bad predictions.
And listen, this isn't just some fun psychological quirk. It has real-world costs. In roulette, the expected value of a $1 bet is negative 5.3 cents. That just means that, on average, every single time you bet $1, you're statistically set to lose over a nickel. The casino knows the math. The gambler's fallacy makes you feel like you can outsmart the system, but the math is always there working against your gut feeling.
So this all sounds a little bleak, right? If our brain's autopilot is constantly leading us astray, what are we supposed to do? We can't just turn it off. The solution isn't to get rid of our fast thinking, but to know when to be skeptical of it. It's about learning when to say, okay, time to call in the pilot. Daniel Kahneman came up with this brilliant acronym to act as a kind of mental alarm bell. It's WYCAIT, and it stands for What You See Is All There Is. That, he says, is the core operating principle of our fast thinking System 1.
WSATI is basically a warning label for your first impression. It's a reminder that your brain is an amazing storyteller. It will take whatever little information is right in front of it and weave the most believable, coherent story it can. The huge problem is it completely ignores all the information it doesn't have. It never stops to ask, wait, what's the rest of the story? It just leaps to a conclusion with an incomplete picture.
So how do we fight back against WYZiati and engage our slow, deliberate brain? Well, first, and this is the most important part, just pause. Especially when the stakes are high, don't immediately trust your gut. Then actively ask that question your brain never does. What information might I be missing here? Resist that temptation to create a nice, simple story when the reality might just be random chance. And please, don't base a huge decision on a tiny little sliver of data.
You know, understanding these shortcuts isn't about getting rid of your intuition. Your gut is an amazing tool. It's about knowing when it's probably right and when it's likely leading you into a trap. So I'll leave you with this question. Thinking about everything we just talked about, what's one gut decision you're facing this week that might just be worth a second, slower, more deliberate look?